Well, welcome to Dr. Margaret and Dr. Katie Speaks on this fine Saturday evening on Soma Fusion Media. And tonight we're going to be talking all about destiny and free will. Now, of course, I've had my own fair share of coincidences, meaningful coincidences and everything in between. And they are usually unseen messages from the universe residing in daily life and incognito. But as my self-awareness grew, I began to see things differently. I began to come across this revelation that would lead me down a path of living in harmony with myself and the world around me. But when we look at destiny and free will, are we looking at something that is something called synchrodestiny? Are we looking into synchronicities and how it relates? Or are we looking at karma? Or are we looking at what is free will? And for that, I'm going to dive into it straight away. But rather than me just go talking and you doing my usual intro, I'm going to hand it over to Margaret because she has something to say. And I wish that everybody who's listening tonight does have a meaningful conversation with us, either in the comments on Facebook or up on YouTube, or you can call us in and join our conversation via phone, which our call-in number is 929-436-2866 with the meeting ID number 522-657-2748.
Wow, wonderful. Actually, you know, when we talk about any word, and we're now doing free will, so I'm throwing it out to everyone just right up front. What does the word free will, when it's all together, mean to you? And versus what does free mean on its own, and what does will mean? Okay, so I'm going to just throw out a few little examples of me. When I actually see the word free will, and of course in England it's hyphenated, and here it's not. But the bottom for me is free will in that sense is I'm an individual in my own space doing my own thing. Nobody's interfering. Nothing's happening but me and my glory doing whatever I want to do. Yeah, that's what it should be. Yeah, so that's how we were brought up to think about free will back in England. Now, if we take the word free on its own, I immediately think, oh, I can get candy for nothing. Because back in those days, everything was so expensive when I was a kid. And you go in the store and you see everywhere and online, wherever you go, free, free, free. So what does that mean to you? I know when I see free, the first thing I think about is what's the gimmick? What's the catch? You know, it's not really free. It's coming at a cost. There's going to be something hidden. So we'll talk about that behind that. And then when you talk about will, in terms of it's a verb, I will do something. Do you procrastinate? Do you not follow through in some way because something else happens? You get sidetracked, whatever it is. But what about the will of nature? It could be an emotional will, could be a mental will, could be a spiritual will. I am one with all that is, and the Lord God told me, go out and do this, and I'm out there doing this, i.e. John the Baptist. So I'm throwing it out as a quiz, as it were, in a way, to anyone listening, because I think it's very important that we learn to listen to one another. So I'm going to throw it back to you, having done that intro in terms of the word, and let you spark off with what free or free will or will means to you.
Well, I don't think we actually have free will unless we let go. Because if we don't let go, we're never going to have anything. We're going to be playing our lives on fate.
That is true, but what did you grow up with when you said I have free will? What did you grow up? How did you relate to it, to your life?
Well, I never had free will.
Never at all? Not even a moment when the teacher said you can't go to the restroom? You said, well, I'm going anyway.
I mean, I wish it was like that, but no. I was a little bit, the only free will that I had in my schooling, outside of being the class nerd that sits up the front of at the front near the chalkboard or the whiteboard, so to speak, was for me to actually skip classes. That's what I was doing, but I was skipping classes because of my own free will, because I figured I just wanted to learn something else. That's my free will. In my home life, I never had that free will. I was under the rule of my parents, obviously, as many are, but not in the type of having a normal childhood. Yes, there were great parts, but it wasn't, to me, it was restrictive. To me, I never was able to play on who I wanted to be. It was always handed down and restricted in such a way that I was meant to be molded into something that a parent would mold their child into becoming. And so the sense of free will was never given to me until I became a free woman. And so, and even then it had its downfalls.
I'm going to interrupt you and say, even when we are adults, finally, our free will, and we're going to that more in a while, but I want to throw this right at you. Our free will that we think we have finally when we got to a situation isn't, because we're already arguing.
Yeah.
Right? I can and I can't, I will and I won't, I shall and I shan't, it is and it isn't, it's up and it's down, it's round and about, and I don't know where I am. Crazy.
Yeah, and so with me, it wasn't because of, my free will in terms of the way that I live is through my own unrestricted lifestyle of being who I am, and being able to proactively assert myself as to who I want to be, without any connotations of someone controlling or taking a hold or suppressing me into not being who I want to be. Because for me,
well, let me interject again, because I'll talk about that in a minute, but I just want to say, I don't think we as individuals grow up realizing we have free will. I think we are conditioned all the way down the line to, like my dad would say, he'd say, short version here, because he would go for hours, about class and its distinction and upbringing and all, as I've mentioned on other shows, and make me sit there for an hour where he went on, and I knew exactly what words he was going to say before he ever said it, because I'd heard it so many times. And at the end of it, when he finally, you have to be this and that and so on, and be a lady and so on, whatever it was, the end of it, and he'd say, and always remember, you are a free woman, you're not a slave, you're not being abused, so don't let anyone tell you what to do. And I used to see this, because he just spent an hour telling me what to do, what to think, and then at the end he's winding up telling me, don't let anyone. Contradiction.
mm-hmm.
There's so much contradiction about us when we're growing up, between religion, teachers. So where do you want to go with this? What do you want to talk about in terms of being free?
Wherever you would like to go.
She's throwing it on me today.
Well, let's talk about synchronicities. What's the difference between a synchronicity and something that is of coincidence?
Well, I think when you say synchronicity, you're saying you're in the vibe, you're in the right situation at the right time, and it all just seems to come together for you. And for me, going back into my psyche and my, listening to my spirit guides, because I've had such a blessing with that all my life, is if I don't know, I would go run away into the local park, sit down, cry my eyes out, get rid of my poor me bit. And then I would sit and listen, and they would always give me a different slant on my perception and show me in some way that my perception was lowly, Lowley, lowly. Is that right? How you spell it? I want to make sure, not lonely. I did feel alone all the time, but that wasn't the point. When I was alone, I could then listen and hear. And so, like, if my mother was going on and on at me about something, or my dad, as I said, I would just, I'm cringing. I just want to get away. I want to go out of the house and run over to the park. And I'm right. I know my will, in other words, so here I'm using the word will, is I don't want to be what my dad wants me to be, or I don't want to do what my mother wants me to do. I'm a free person, I'm supposed to be. I've been taught all this, but the minute I try to do anything that is, in my opinion, the right thing to do, I'm suddenly punished because I shouldn't have been doing that. It's wrong, blah, blah, blah. So mixed messages, I think, for everybody, no matter who we are. You can find it in the office, you can find it anywhere. It's like, we really want to employ you in the office, have a wonderful time, we'll give you raises, we'll do this, we'll do that. And you come in there all gung-ho to learn, and they just say, sit in the corner, but so-and-so will help you and tell you what to do. 2 hours later, you're still sitting in the corner wondering, what the hell am I doing here? Getting paid for nothing, that's great. I don't mind, I'll sit here and get paid for nothing. And then the next thing you know, someone comes along and says, why are you sitting in the corner? Why aren't you doing the filing? Or why aren't you doing this? And you're like 16, well, where? What filing is it? Well, just ask somebody. And everybody's too busy to explain to you. Did you have all that in your teenage years?
I don't remember. No, well, by the time I was 15, 16, I was already out on my own, doing my own thing, continuing with my education on my own. Many of the stuff after the age of 15, I was pretty much living on my own accord until I made a fatal mistake of meeting a man and getting married young. So, but it took me this long to realize that, it was a mistake. It really was. But that's the thing is that going back to the old traditions that we're told as a woman that we're supposed to, we're supposed to play a certain role in society, that is to, find a man, get married, blah, 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 and have children and be the typical housewife. All the myths while adding in modernity into it, where we have to go and get a job, plus look after the kids, plus look after the house, feed our husbands, and blah, 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 blah. And so
we talked about that in the last show, didn't we? But what I'm going to pull you back, because you know me, I like that. I'm putting you back to this. Well, free. When you're free, go into it. I'll follow you around afterwards. But when you really are free, what did you feel at the bottom line? I'm free now. There's nobody telling me what to do. What did you feel? Really, honestly, what was underneath it?
Liberation.
Deliberation. Okay.
Liberation was behind it. Freedom to be who I wanted to be. Individuality.
Well, I'm going to be the counselor here. When you were deliberating, okay, when you're deliberating, were you confident that your deliberations were actually thorough and you knew exactly what you were going to do? No, right. So we weren't really free, were we?
No,
because we still got that confusion.
You confused the words that I just said. I said liberation, not deliberation, but
okay.
Made a good point here. But deliberating, yes, procrastination leads you down a hellhole of everything. But deliberating as to what I wanted to do was never an issue, because I already knew what I wanted to do. I was already headstrong. And there are not very many people, men and women alike, that are headstrong to know what they want, because they're under the circumstances, they've been led by external influences that guide us on our path that we think that we know best, but we really don't.
And that's very valid. And I can see that in my own life, of course, because, having grown up and all I want to do is be a nurse or a doctor, and I finally get into the whole medical thing and get out there, and there's a road in my book, get punished for something I didn't even do. If people want to know, you've got to read the book. But the bottom line was that in another way, being pushed out, as it were, by my peers, actually pushed me in another direction, which went into psychology and psychiatry, which also pushed me into another direction. So when I look back at my life, I've always thought, I know what I want, that's my will. I'm going to do what I want to do, that's my will. And even now, I can tell you, and I'm on my own, there's no one here telling me what to do. I can sit there and I think, okay, I'm going to do this and this and this. And then out of the blue, the phone glows and it's Miss Bloggins wants ABC. Okay, I've got to drop what I was going to do just for me, free will. Now I'm going to do something for her. And I don't have to, but I'm not going to not do it because I don't want to let her down, or she needs me, or so there's always some rationale. And I'm just using this as one example. Or my spirit guides will come in and I'll say, okay, I'm going to sit down and write my book. And I say, no, you need to do this and this and that and that. Okay, so go off and do this and that. So I'm still not, for all my years of my life, I was at 97, I knew it said, 79 years of my life, I can honestly really say, because I was musing on this, because I brought this up that we would do this talk, is that I don't think any of us really ever appreciate being free, because even if we are on our own, we've got the telephones, we've got the computers, we've got spammers, we got this and that, pulling us away from our freedom of thought, choice, emotions, whatever it is, and we'll go in that in a minute. So do you really think that you are free when you think about everything that you're doing and how it also controls your time and so on? I don't think I'm free.
Well, no, nobody is ever free to that certain extent, unless you had gotten rid of all worldly goods and lived out in a paddock somewhere, I don't know, or a boat or something. If we got rid of all of our worldly material goods, then we would literally be free. But when we approach that a circumstance where we have to survive, then we are not pushed. We're not pushed into that direction of free will. We are pushed into the direction of survival and restricted by our free will.
But you see, there are people of schools of thought here where they will say that even when you're pushed by society, let's put it that way, into a direction, it's still free will in the choice to follow like a lamb or roar like a lion. Okay, and I know Jesus told me that when he went into the I want to say synagogue, it's not church in those days, but he went into the temple and tipped up the money changes. Well, when you think about, for example, I went down to Mexico and there was a nice little area, it was a few years back when I was teaching there, and there was a nice little church and everything, and sure enough, all the way around were all the native Mexicans with their jewelry and their wares and everything. And of course I was in a Jesus mode because I was doing healing down there, and I actually felt him saying to me, we're not upset the tables, but that feeling of it's still the same, that people are still not seeing their complete surrender to the moment of being in existence. And I really honestly think that that's the only time you're really in free will. It's like sitting in the park, doing nothing, twiddling your thumbs, meditating, not even listening to your spirit guides, watching the birds fly up in the tree, whatever it is. That is a moment, I really think, when we feel we're free. The minute we get up, we start to walk, our brain kicks in that, we have this, and I shouldn't have stayed so long because I've got that to do, and so on. And so, the more I was thinking about this word free on its own, I don't think anybody right now feels free. They're looking at me. Well, think about it this way. You can't go shopping anywhere you want because there's rules and regulations about vaccinations, inoculations, whether you park here or park there or go here and have a meter or have a piece of paper that says you're entitled to draw or write or do something somewhere in a certain place. There are so many rules and regulations, and we have to have rules. We obviously we can't push them away, but there are so many rules where we're so timid about it. For example, when I first came over here, I drove into the post office. The next thing I know, there's a policeman back tapping on my window. And of course, we drove on the wrong side of the road and you could park anywhere on the different roads. And so I didn't know all these rules. I hadn't read anything. So here's this policeman tapping on, yes, what did I do wrong? You did a load of things. You came in the wrong way. You parked next to a hydrant. You did this, and I'm looking at him and going, oh, really? Yes, and of course I've got a very British accent, more than now. So he says, yes, we need to see your license. So I give him my British AA license. He says, what's this? I said, this is this is what you had in those days, so you could drive abroad. He was so frustrated because here was a man, he got it in his head, there was ABC and 21 other things I'd done wrong, really a load of things. And he piped them all off left, right and center. And then he said, you'll have to go down to hither and thither and do this and that and so on. And I said, where is that? And he said, well, it's over here and there. And I said, but where is that? Because I'm just arrived, I don't know anywhere. Oh, well, you have to buy a map. Yeah, okay, well, where can I buy a map? So he got so frustrated because he wanted to control me. His will was so strong, it's the point of it. And there was absolutely nothing he could do to make me do what he wanted to do, because I was in complete and utter ignorance, or if you want to see it another way, innocence of the way this American country was run at that time. And this is 1982, okay? So he just pulled out this piece of paper, tore it up into bits, because obviously he couldn't give me a ticket, because how was I going to pay it? I was leaving as well, so because I was on tour, so I was going to another town and stuff. See, so he tore this up and he threw it at me in the window, and he said, "I'll let you off this time." But he had not won that situation. And that brings me back to the contradictions that every one of us has in our head about how we see, hear, touch, feel, whatever is going on, according to the rules that we've accepted. And when you're up against someone who hasn't a clue, you're frustrated. How can you be free?
Well, let me butt in here for a second.
Yeah, I know I went on a while.
Well, you kind of segueing into what I was just about to go, which is what I was going to say, but free will to me is an illusion. Now, if we go into illusions, we talk about restrictions, we talk about a whole range of things. But I pose a question to you. Our wills are not simply of our own making, and our thoughts and intentions emerge from the background, which cause us, which is the cause of us and our thoughts and our thinking and all of that, which we are unaware of, and we actually have no control over what we exert from a conscious level. In other words, we don't have the freedom to think that we have, when we really simply don't have anything. We're just using that external conscious thought in order to make a deliberation on whatever we need. But at the same time, when we exert the illusion of what we think that we can control, it's already the control is already there, which breaks us into, believe it or not, it breaks us into predestiny.
Yeah, and what do you think predestiny is? I mean, it doesn't have to be a biggie, does it?
No, it doesn't have to be anything, actually. But there are signs of synchronicity when we have gotten to a point where we have been disillusioned by our illusions. We can let go and see clearly, and have that sense of clarity to find out and see the signs of synchronicity that are available to us in order to maybe perhaps create the destiny of our choosing.
But then when you create the destiny of your choosing, see, I'm going to put circles right here. You think from here, aha, I know A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z. And as you muse on it, I'm free to do it. What comes up here is all those images of all the things you've ever done before. Question mark, do I have in my moment of freedom here everything I need, all the tools I need? Oh, I haven't got a program on computer. Or, oh, I need to have my hair fixed before I appear in public. I mean, there's 101 scenarios that anybody could have. And we immediately put the cufflinks on ourselves.
Which is why I just said about restrictions, because no matter what we do in life, we're always going to be restricted by something. thing or someone or an obstacle that we have to overcome. But that's the whole point of growing, you see. So we allow ourselves to go down that route. That's the circle of life, really. We reach these obstacles. We learn and how to adapt to these obstacles, to overcome them through adversity, so that we can get to the end point of whatever our destiny may be. And we may not even reach our destiny until from, you know, right at the in our last dying breath. It's just that simple. It's, however, we are deliberating all the time and sitting there and procrastinating. What is right? What is wrong? What is black? What is white? And we sit there and we make ourselves go insane, because we tend to, as humans, repeat the same thing over and over again until somebody goes, whack, we need to change.
But you see, you've just used, you're about to hear on the playback, intellect. There's all equations, rationalization, and that's how the brain works. But back here in the deep subconscious is your spirit self that does not come through intellect, it comes through feelings. So let's say you want to start a new business repairing cars, make it an everyday hard work, everything. And so you've got your training, you've got everything, you've got a garage, and you're gung-ho to go, and you put your commercial out, and nobody comes. Not one person comes in the door saying, would you just take a look and sound of my car or anything? And you put all that joie de vivre, joy of life, into this new dream, this new hope. And suddenly, it's all done with logic, by the way, because it's the hope is coming from, I've thought it, I've worked it through, I've done everything. And now you've got the doors open, you're ready to fly. And nobody wants to come and see you. Letdown, emotional letdown. Okay, that's disappointment, isn't it? That's pain, that's anxiety of, I've just put my money in here, I'm hoping, as you said. And so I've been to so many times in the world of metaphysical studies, and I've been doing a lot of looking at my mum's RNA and DNA, and, you know, going into, even into my mother having me in the womb, going back into her being in the womb of her mother. And I found with Spirit Guides' help that the core energy that I'm dealing with is the doubting Thomas. Now, when we think of doubting Thomas, you know, in terms of Jesus again, I'm not being a particular Christian, it's just sayings that I grew up with. Everything that somebody says to me, in some way I'm going, that sounds interesting, but how do I know that's true? And where do I go to check it? Oh, I could go online now. But, you know, back when I was a kid, there was nowhere to go. There was nowhere to check it. So you had to trust it. And then you go out and trust it and you do it. And then someone else comes along and goes, what the hell are you doing that for? Because that's all wrong. You're not supposed to do it that way. I was so confused when I was growing up. And it didn't matter how much I got away from the adult world and, you know, got my freedom modes. If I hadn't have had my spirit guide sorting out my brain, I think I would have long gone crazier before I did.
Yeah, well, just someone just noted here in the comments, sounds like you are talking about insanity, Katie, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. I've had to go through the fire over and over until I realized that I need to change. Yeah, we do that our entire lives, because we think consciously, we actually think that we're doing the wrong thing because we've been taught some of the right things in life are actually the wrong things, and some of the wrong things in life are actually the right things. So yeah, we do go around and round and round in circles, thinking that what is right is wrong and what is wrong is right, and we literally go insane by it. And it doesn't help that we are natural, all of us are natural, and you can tell me that you're not, but I can guarantee you we are all natural born procrastinators. Sometimes we need that kick up the butt in order to find guidance and seek clarity in the things that we do. However, we do that as a cycle, and it's up to, we don't even have to talk about awakenings at this point, but there's always if anybody has ever sat down and meditated and actually really understood what they're going through on a subconscious level, then you would know that sometimes the path that you think that you're on is correct is actually not. And it's not something that you are wholeheartedly in agreement on through subconscious and conscious mind.
Well, again, what I'm trying to get you to see is you're looking at the intellectual training and everything that you studied. Yeah, and when we come down to freedom, it has nothing to do with the way we think. It has 100% to do with stimulation of the emotions. So we use our brain blocks to pro and con, up and down, in and out, round about, on and off, as I said, trying to find the inner core of peace and tranquility in that moment, to be able to say, I really feel nothing is threatening me, nothing is changing me. I'm just allowed to just be. And you know what? The only time I really felt that I could just be was when I was really ill. And even the ex, would say to the kids, leave Mummy alone, she's really ill, got bronchitis, you can't go in there. And sure enough, within 10 minutes, Mom, Neil's hit me. Mom, Paul's not telling me, nobody's cooking dinner. Mom, I'm hungry. And I sat there on that table, my nose streaming and cold and coughing and everything on the bed, because I couldn't get in bed because I knew I was supposed to get in bed, they're going to come after me. See, that's the mother rule. That's what we do. And that was my emotions that was keeping me on the bed, not my logic, And so I'm bringing that back to the motherhood, and every woman can't help it because she nurtures the baby in the womb, that the only time you really get to feel free is when everybody has left the nest, or when everybody is out at work and you can just get on with your little somethings, whatever it is. Back when I was a young mother, it was make the kids trousers or something on the sewing machine. Well, that sounds like work again, but no, that was like painting a painting. It was like I was in the la la land. I was just sewing, just doing something, and then they all come running in. It's like, my peace is gone. So to me, freedom is when I have room to be in my own space and fully enjoy myself emotionally being in that space.
See, I take the intellectual standpoint because I am intellectual. It's hard for me to get out of it, but that doesn't mean that what you're saying is incorrect, let alone what I'm saying is incorrect. You're more intuitive, whereas I'm intuitive plus intellectual. I don't know what. So
you've got all the 5 senses, same as I have. But when they're all working together, there isn't any freedom. When one is, and when the emotion is, that's when you have no interference.
And that's the same as having the heart-mind conversation about, thinking with your heart before you act with your mind, vice versa. And most people do act with their head because it's the only logical way of thinking about it when we're in scenarios of deliberations where we need to make a choice. And having the free will is all about having choices. And sometimes there's too many choices there. So therefore we do become insane by the choices that we have to make in life, because we just, there's too many options.
Well, because, we got a lot of retirees here in my town, a lot of the people will actually say at their front door, they say, I'm taking my boat out so I can have some freedom.
It's like somebody saying, I'm going fishing.
Yeah, it's like, I don't want to be bothered. I want to be quiet. I want to be in my own space, and I just want to enjoy an hour or two or all day, whatever they got, just being me. And I've been really thinking about that recently because, ever since Steve's passed, I've been fiddling around trying to get my dream come true of the university on online, and even though we're working together on it, it doesn't come easily, because as we both know, we've had a lot of interruptions in many different ways, and we're kind of doing it as on a prayer right now that people will follow us and want to talk to us and interact with us so that we can know what they want to learn. But with this confusion, I've had quite a few people say locally, I really want to learn to be psychic so I can help my children and so on. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to structure a class, and I'll say something like, do you know what days you're free? And immediately I start doing that. I've restricted, because now I'm giving them a choice, but now they're confused, because on Monday they got this, and Friday they got this, and Thursday they got this, and so on. And it comes down to, well, what do you choose? What day do you want to work on doing what you want to do? Oh, well, I can't do me right now because everyone else is more important than me. So I can't have me, this is what mothers do all the time, or fathers at work has got to earn the money and do all this and that, assuming to have a balanced family. But what if they don't? What if they're a one-parent family? What if the kids are in trouble with the police all the time? There's all these outside influences that come into us psychologically every day. And when we're dealing with it, there comes a time when we crash. And I know about crashing because I've had that so many times in my life. And if I didn't have the spirit guides remind me, it's not what the world thinks. It's not how I respond to what the world thinks, but it's about how am I feeling today? And if I'm not feeling right, I'm not going to be going out there giving a good account of me, if you know what I mean, because I'm going to be sensory or sensitive to others' needs. So I think the word free comes back to me as not having anything to do but whatever I want to do, whether it's creative, painting, drawing, singing, dancing, watching a movie, it doesn't matter, but it's something that is my pleasure without any, I have to be successful with it, or I have to make sure it goes into a book or something. You see what I'm saying? It's just a moment or two or three of being you, for you and you alone. And that's what I think freedom is. Is anybody out there wanting to give me their input on freedom?
Yeah, I mean, I'm wholeheartedly agreeing with you on that note. And the other thing, the other impediment that we would have is that we have the inability to say no, thus therefore surrendering ourselves to free will, to be constricted in such a way where we really don't know what we really don't know what our me time should really selfishly look like. And selfish in a good way, because me time is selfish. We just don't know how to say no, and that's the problem of a lot of people. It took me a long time to get through that, because I sat there and I'm like, well, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. I was like, I've now gotten to a point where I'm just like, hell no, I'm not going to sit there and bend to your will because that makes you satisfied. Did you ever stop to think about what another person goes through when they're having to bend to your will? I became my own boss because I could be in control of everything that I could do, but that with the added circumstances that I can make myself available to other people. Now, that is certainly the case, but there are times when I sit there and I go, you know what, to hell with it. You know what, this ain't serving me. It's not going to make me feel better. It's not satisfying.
Well, wait a minute. You see, you've put freedom, free, and will back together again. I was trying to separate them.
Oh.
Okay. So that's what I'm saying. My original question is, what does the word free mean to you? Is it just free on its own? And then we go into will. That's what I was trying to do here. Not put them together yet, because then it becomes a psychological thing. So as I said, for me, free is like walking in the park and listening to the birds and bees or whatever it was back when I was young, to get away from all the other things that I'm supposed to do and supposed to have the will to do for other people. So to me, will is over here on the side. So that's why I was saying, what do people think the word free means? Because I mentioned, like, you could see all over the store, you know, free, free, free. And you go, free what? And then you look and it's like, free if you buy 5 of them, you get an extra one. Yeah. So that's why I'm saying, what's your associated with just one word, free?
To be me, individualism.
To be you, yeah.
Yeah, free to be me. But that, which is a form of individualism, but even individualism has its own connotations as well. We do have a question here. Sometimes I feel free, but then I realize that I allow other people's reactions towards me bring me down, and then I close my peace. How do I remain and hold my peace and keep positive frequency in a situation that feels negative?
That's a good question. And that's kind of what I was leading up to help people to think about that kind of thing. The bottom line is we all own our own perceptions. Okay. So, for example, I like your glasses on your face. Another person might look at your glasses and say, why don't you take them off and just let's see your face without them? That's their point of view. You have a choice whether you want to respond to that at all or not at all, you know, in some way. But the ultimate thing is, let's say it did become a discussion. What we tend to do is, well, I'm going to talk about my glasses, and my glasses don't fit on my face properly. So I'm always fiddling around and having to readjust it. I'm sick and tired of glasses, so I wear contacts. Okay. I've now validated why I'm not wearing glasses. I haven't validated I'm wearing contacts. I'm justified in my explanations of why I'm not wearing my glasses. And that's what we tend to do. And so I would say to this person that try and find an alternative in the situation where you can take you to that space and be still in command of yourself. So in the scenario of glasses that I just used, I would be saying, instead of, you know, I like your glasses or whatever, I would take it into myself and say something like, I'm not wearing my glasses today. How are you doing with yours? It comes from a different approach rather than a direct. See, I'm saying the first, you know, I'm bringing up your glasses. I'm talking about your glasses. I'm making you a show in public, as it were. Okay. Now, let's say you don't like that and you're angry at me that I'm talking about them, right? Now it's an emotion comes up. Now that's the time when you have to learn to dance in a new tune, a new direction. So if I'm now the one who's wearing the glasses and I'm being discussed, I would just say, interesting point of view. I'll have to nose on that one and change the subject rather than have a reaction to it and say, how could you talk to me like that in public, or, you know, put me down or whatever it is, because people are very defensive.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're defensive, guess what? If we, you know, two lions arguing, you know, roar away, I'll roar louder than you're roaring. I'll frighten the hell out of you with my yelling. No, you won't, because I'm going to hit you across the face because you're just, you know, taking me to the end of my pain. Well, we do that all the time. We see people yelling and screaming in families and homes and all the rest of it. And I know it's because I've seen it time and time again in all my counseling sessions with people, that they haven't got any awareness of a place to go within themselves where they feel absolutely free to feel and think everything that is their world, okay, and to not compare it with other people's world. And that's why I'm saying, what does that word free on its own mean? For me, it means shut down, go sing, go do painting, do something singular where other people can't be involved with me. I'm going to cough because that's so clear. I'm still clearing my throat chakra from all of that for the years. And like you like painting and drawing now. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I do a lot more than that.
Oh dear. Yeah, go on.
You prompted me the other night, because we were talking about guides and all sorts, and you were prompting me to see visually who my spirit guide could be. Well, I did have an image that came forth that I haven't drawn it yet, so I know it is a man.
Mm-hmm. And when you felt that, did you feel like I want to draw that and that would take me to a space of peace to draw that? Or
No,
did it come, or was it more logic, like I have to know what he looks like, so I have to go and draw it sometime, which
no,
is an intellectual thing, you see.
no, it was just a prompt that I had to do, that I had to do because I had to do it. No, there was.
Yeah, but you can't say you have to do it, because the way of the oneness is nobody has to do anything or have to do, depending which word you want to use, different connotations. People don't realize just how a sentence can mean one thing to one person, a whole different ball game to another person. So when I say free, for example, and I go to the store and I say free range hens, that means to me they're not in chains. They're not slaves. Not really. Of course they are. Free range hens are running around free in the barn with nothing but food everywhere, and there's billions of them. How's that free? So here now I'm talking about changing the word of free into your space. If you can go like this and swing your arms around. I do a lot of this when I'm teaching class. And I want them to know that when they put their arms out, how their aura gets bigger, and how, if everybody's like 50 people in the room, which I've had, and I'm trying to teach them crystal acupuncture, and their auras are all overlapping one another. Amazing what happens when you have 50 people completely in harmony by the end of a day with crystals. Amazing. They go from misery face to absolute joy. I never cease to be amazed by that. But that's off book here a bit. But what I'm trying to say is that people need to realize that we could be standing next to someone, as we did in the psychic class just the other day, and I was talking to people about energy, where you could just be, say, in line for an ice cream, and all of a sudden you've gone from being really safe and nice and to, I don't want to stand here, I wish they hurry up, I'm impatient, I want to get away, I want to get my ice cream, I want to eat it, I've got this to do, I've got that to do. And what you don't realize is you've just taken a dollop of someone else's aura into your aura, and you've lost peace, you've lost freedom, you've lost that free will, because you're now in that person's will. So let's come to will. What does will mean to you on its own?
Fate.
Fate, that's interesting. See, I wouldn't have thought of that. Why would you say fate?
Because fate brings you the opportunities, and free will determines whether or not you take.
Wait a minute, you haven't got the word free in here, you just got will.
No, free will.
No, I'm being a mean-o here. We're putting free on the side, now we've got will. What does will mean to you? I know for me, will means I have the energy, the effort to do something.
No, I'm not in a disagreement with you. I'm just saying that we are driven through free will, regardless of whatever the meaning.
You can't get away from putting together, can you? This is why I was making this point, because I want people to understand that we cotton on to phrases as well, and free will is just one, but we cotton on to all these phrases, and we use them in our talking and our rationale, and we could take it into all sorts of words, but I just thought this would be a good one, because will is your ability of what?
Let's just say it in a different way. Or what about autonomy? Autonomy allows a person to practice the act of free will.
You did it again. Free will. You're going to hate me by the end of the show. Now, it's like I have the will to put myself through educational program listening to some professor. I don't have to do it. I'm not in the university studying right beside them. So I have the opportunity to download their lecture and listen to it. And that is my will to do that. Okay. It isn't done at a price. It isn't because I want to be better in the public eye or something. Okay. It's just, I'm curious, like the cat. I want to use my energy in a productive way. And right now, I've chosen to listen to a professor. That's will. That's my opinion. I want it.
You're drilling me today, I swear.
I am, because that's what we are like when we're children, you know, toddlers. We don't know about thinking things through and saying, you know, mummy is going to be angry if I touch that nice shiny thing over there. No, we just look at it and go, oh, that's really nice. And we wander off like this and touch it and drop it and break it. And mummy's upset, you know, blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm all scared. Now I'm going to cry because I don't know what I just did. Well, that is the basic energy that will works with all the time.
Well, see, that's the thing, is that it makes us feel less morally moral. It makes us feel that we have a less moral responsibility for the outcomes of our actions. And so with that said, we're more likely, you know, to have positive outcomes such as happiness. I can't even speak English today. Happiness and academic success, or success in or better work performance, or it could be better anything. Anything that makes us feel like we are in that act of being autonomous or individual or free.
Without, I'm going to add a word here, judgment, without judgment. Okay, when I was young and I went to ballet class, for example, that, you know, do whatever you're supposed to do, and say I've got my arms out like this, and she would come and make me do that rounded thing. I can't do that with this arm, by the way, because it got damaged, but you know, if I do it with this one, you've got to pull it and make that arm long. Well, you know, when they're busy, stand here and do this and do, you know, we understand you've got to practice it, but it isn't fun. Okay, but put the music on when nobody's around and ad lib and just do what you want to do and dance all around the floor and do pirouettes or whatever I used to do, and thoroughly lost in the music and the body movement. I was doing what I wanted to do with no influence, nobody in the way. That was my will to dance.
We have a caller.
Oh, we do. Nice. Hello, whoever.
And I'll bring him in. Caller, the area code 9. Okay. Yeah, they can.
Well, that was too loud. I don't know what that was, but we don't need that, please. So don't do that again. Anyway, we're seriously looking for people who have a genuine feedback, you know, because when we have conflict in terms of the people in our family or work, or even getting on and off a plane, going somewhere, making choices where you're going to sit, who's telling you where to sit, whatever, how can you use your will in a nice way? So what I learned was, if somebody says, I want you to sit in this seat and I don't want to sit in that seat, I'm crafty. I will say, wow, thank you very much for giving me that seat, but you know, you might like that more than I would. Oh, no, I don't know. Well, really, because you were here first, so why don't you have that? And I'll just go over here somewhere and I'll go and get the seat I want. And leave them feeling, okay, I've got a seat I don't want, but that's their problem. Just, you understand what I'm saying? Because when we're in a family unit, we want to make everybody happy. So I'll move, I'll give up my seat, I'll go and sit here or there, whatever, for someone else in the family. But a stranger, there are people who come up to you and they're strangers, and they talk to you like family and expect you to give up whatever you've got for them so that they can have whatever it is they want. And I saw that a lot on plane trips, because I would sit in an aisle seat because I get up and go to the bathroom a lot, and I type a lot, write books a lot, especially when I'm on a 12-hour flight. And people don't know my point of view of why I sit in the aisle seat. And I've had a couple of people, you know, on different occasions come up to me and ask me, would I give up that aisle seat because they need to stretch their legs, they're bigger or something. And I just look at them and I said, I'm sorry, I'm a rider and I have a potty problem.
Mhm.
Then they leave me alone because they know I've chosen that seat for a reason. But there are people who will look at you in such a way and I'm not getting what I want and all that kind of thing. And so when I look at will, I look at what a person really needs as opposed to what they think they need.
Yeah, and that only comes with when a individual liberates themselves and from all of these impulses of life by acquiring the virtues of wisdom and courage, in using our heart instead of being led by our mind. And once an individual has asserted themselves and has leveled that has achieved that level of mastery, then of oneself, and only of oneself, not without comparable influences, only then that person can express their free will. And I'm going to use that as a whole world, because you have to reach a certain level of mastery in order to understand exactly what free will really means, and why there is a problem, an ongoing problem, because free will is one of the most debated words in the history of mankind. I believe it to be anyway, because free will can be attached to a lot of things, reality, disillusionment, destiny, synchronicity, fate, and all sorts of stuff. And the power of the mind to believe that we are free or not is such a big debate that that's why we go down these rabbit holes of why we go into what is illusion, what is insanity, what is individualism, in such a way where we are actually free and free to our will.
Well, when you think about the two words together, because I think you just don't put them together, but actually originally in the English dictionary, free and will were two separate words. It's only modernisms that's done that. But what we see when we're battling to get that space, to have the emotion that is fulfilling while we're doing something that we love to do intellectually, we're looking at constant choice in how we do it, when we do it, where we do it, why we do it. And as we choose our way, guarantee someone's going to come into that space and create conflict. Right? It could be something very simple like, why are you eating in here? I was just going to eat my dinner in here. I'm sorry, we're having a party in here. You'll have to go eat in the hall. Oh, but I want to eat here. Well, I'm sorry, we're putting up balloons or whatever. And that's an actual event, I remember. And that person was so and they could have come in and just sat in the back of the room. We wouldn't have said a thing, and ate their dinner and then left the room. But they decided they wanted to make a big scene and upset everybody in the room who was trying to put up balloons for a party. And I remember observing that, and that person just wanted to create conflict out of any given situation. At that time happened to be us putting up balloons, but was the will. They wanted attention. Okay. And I think will always draws attention, whoever we are, wherever we are, even if we're like just walking around with a banjo and just singing a song for self. Bottom line, we want someone to come up and say, you got a nice voice, or you got talent on that banjo, whatever it is. It makes our day to feel that someone else is being pleased by what we're doing. So I think will stimulates us to give and to take a great deal. And in the process of giving and taking, we always have conflict. How, when, why, what for, all these third degree things come up, and we feel like we're a prisoner that's been taken off, and third degree, and it's almost like turn left, turn right, let me take a picture of you because I want to remember you being miserable. Yeah.
That's also why I said I think it was like a year ago, I kind of said being somewhat being logical is almost a sickness, because we tend to be driven our logical mind rather than driven by our emotions, which actually helps our logical mind rather than the opposite way around.
Well, you know, I'm going to throw things right into the deep end here and say, when you think about Princess Diana and her choices once she made them, because she came from very sweet 19-year-old girl, didn't know anything, typical of those days, a virgin, blah, 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 and at least they had 6 months long, to finding herself 10 years or so later and going out to wherever she went on a goodwill trips to do whatever she wanted to do, and much love. Now, here was a demonstration of will. See, she didn't do it to be free from the family, because she knew she could never be free from the family, but she used her will to go and do good wherever she could, but it also took away from the family. So she was healing herself by distance, but she didn't have freedom. It was just a space. And so again, when I say to people, what does free mean? It means you have space. You have space to be you and not try and fit in with everybody else's whatever, and just mosey through being you and learning and growing and evolving without anyone telling you how to evolve and so on and so forth. And I used to watch, you know, Princess Diana when she was going about on the news and different things, and she was always like, oh, there's a child, you pick it up, and or whatever, lie on the bed with them and do whatever. The royal family would have, that was a no-no. You cannot, you know, rub noses with people, you know, and so on. And she did what she wanted to do. And when I gave her a reading, which I never know if she read it because it was taken by a lady in waiting to her and circumstances were difficult. But the bottom line is, having been brought up with a background of royalty history and so on, I knew how she felt. I could very much identify with trying to act, you know, with all, so you're really rich and you've got all this and you've got all that, and you know, and you haven't got two beans to rub together kind of thing, because it's not yours. The government owns it, somebody else owns it, whatever it is in some way. So what I've seen over the years with now putting together freedom of will is people driving themselves emotionally, mentally, physically, to try and awaken some form of inner peace that comes through their spiritual quest.
Which is why you see a lot of people, quote unquote, awakening right now. Awakening has different forms. However, I kind of question it a little bit. Not so much what the awakening is, but the guidance that comes behind it, because we've been guided by so many other people throughout awakening periods, and that could be multiple cycles throughout a lifetime, times where we would come to fruition of that clarity that we desire, so that we can wake ourselves up to the truth of being disillusioned in such from whatever reality that we're living. But the problem is that, and my biggest issue is that there are so many communities out there who are promoting the awakening, but promoting it in such a way that you become more confused than when you progressively start the awakening process. And so with that, we go back into the comparable ideologies that come with the awakening and the communities that promote it, in terms of where is our sense of autonomy, and where is our sense of actually waking up to ourselves without, it's not so much about needing the guidance, but actually waking up to hear what we have for in our, what our spirit guides, what our subconscious, whatever we want to call it, whatever the oneness is going to call, whatever you've been called to do that awakens you to your desires and your whatever the viewpoint you might have in that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm following you, but what I saw in me, I don't know about what you saw in you because you're a different generation, but from the conflict, as I said, of upbringing, comes the obvious time somewhere in our lives where we have to make a choice to stand on our own 2 feet. And when we stand on our own 2 feet, the doubting Thomas in, as I said earlier, comes up. And what if I'm springboarding into a great unknown world and I fall on my face, then what, you know? So that's a perception. So I'm throwing in here perceptions of how we process our point of view. I've had in my classes, you know, especially in the psychic classes, where I'll give them a topic to focus on. Obviously, I can do this here exactly, but let's say I say, well, we're going to focus on dogs, right? And you're going to give your partner some insight into what type of dog you think they would like. Well, just think how many dogs there are on this planet, different types of dogs. What's the odds of everyone coming out with exactly the same dog? It's very remote unless you're using your spirit consciousness. And I've proved that, you know, in classes where I just said, just tell that partner whatever it is, and you know, they'll say, I see a Scotty, or you know, I see an Alsatian, or whatever it is, and the partner's like, I don't know anyone with one of those, but I like them. They're big dogs, though, you know, something like this. But then you say to all these students, you know, you've got them lined up in pairs now, you say, I want you to attune to this one person and tell them what kind of dog you think they would like. Guess what? When they're using their psychic ability, they all come up with the same dog. Mm-hmm. And that floors people, because it's like, how can we all know that it's, you know, the same dog? Well, the bottom line is, if we put away the deliberating, if we put away the idea that we have to choose between 900 different dogs, as the example here, to come up with the right one for this person, okay, then we're putting ourselves in confusion, we're putting ourselves in frustration, we don't want to be wrong, so we're frightened to open our mouth and say, well, I think you should have a Scotty, or whatever it is, you know, and ultimately the fuss and nonsense that goes on in trying to be right causes a lot of people to never have any inner peace, so they never have freedom.
No, and that's exactly right. And that's why I just mentioned a perfect example about when people are going through a so-called awakening, that they seek these communities and I'm talking about not just one community, but multiple communities, and they're led down a path of confusion rather to actually focusing on what they're actually truly going through. They're seeking external validation and approval and guidance from an external source, and it's leading them down a path of extreme confusion, frustration, and they're back to where they started, and they realize suddenly, oh shoot, my traumas are now exacerbated. I've got more trauma than I started with, and now I'm hurt. And you go through that whole you know, frustrating. It's a balance. It's really is. You have to find the balance in the perception that you have. It's not wrong. When you have your own perception, you can be wrong or right. It doesn't really matter. But what it comes down to is what matters to you. What do you find as your peace? What do you find as your clarity? What do you can seek that guidance, but you have to make your own choice, not be compared to another person, or be have a comparable ideology that you put on yourself in order to make your own. That's
But there's one big thing that always gets in the way. I mean, when you tell people that they can make their own choices and they can do all those things, the one thing that always gets in the way is guilt.
Yeah.
You know, because what they're saying is, well, I'm taking my space up and I'm going to do my drawing or whatever it is, and I'm going to pull the lid down on what, you know, everybody else's needs. Now they're drawing away, and somebody comes in and, whoa, are you doing that? Oh, that's wonderful. But hey, there's so-and-so in the kitchen, and Mm-hmm. Oh, well, I'm just doing this, you know, and even though, well, okay, carry on, do it. It's fine. We'll manage without you in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, guaranteed that it won't be long, but those crayons are put away or whatever they're using, and they're out in the kitchen helping out.
Life is full of options, but there's far too many. So that's why I said you have to single down on the options that you have in order to make the executive decision that you desire to make. Now, we do have a caller in. I'm not sure who this person is. We've had quite a few people come into the waiting room. I just am very skeptical right now because I think they may be trolls. So we'll try this one. We'll see how we go, and I'll remove them if they are. So here goes. Area code 480. You are on the air.
Hi, yeah. Hello.
Hello, how can we help you?
Hi. Yeah, so I'm going to ask a question from the recovery, like addiction recovery side of things. Now, of course, in my addiction, you know, I lost the free will, if you want to say, because of course, you know, I was out there using quite a bit. Now, during my awakening process, which I had during my addiction, started during my addiction, it was like a rude awakening, pretty much. Now, I've noticed as I'm in recovery and building these new ways of healing from my trauma, healing from, you know, everything I've been going through, and all these baggages I've been hanging on to since childhood. I'm realizing that my empath skills have been like really, you know, developing, and I've been able to put my energy into focusing on using it towards good. Now, I believe, and I think that's more directed to you, Dr. Margaret, since you talked about this, is that as a person in recovery that's healed from a lot of trauma, that I could start, what I'm thinking about doing is going into the recovery treatment field and helping people in addiction and helping and empathize with them and be there to help heal them and everything, you know, through their troubles with their addiction.
Yeah, actually, you're very normal in saying that what you've been through is actually the tools by which you've learned to understand how a person feels emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually, and when we say that in practical ways, so that you've gone through it. And of course, anyone that's going through it will much more appreciate being taught by someone who's been through it than someone who's just studied textbooks. And I can tell you that time and time again, when people come to see me, that they always clutch me towards the end and say, I'm so grateful that you were able to really help me in every sense of the word, because you've walked the pathway. I trust you. I know that you've told me the truth, because I see you as a model. And if you say you had this trauma and so on, it's the same with Katie. You know, we've walked the pathway of pain. And so, yeah, we're there for people, and you too. So, yeah, you might want to get more classes and training. And of course, there's the paranormal. You see, this is another thing. There's a lot of people who are doing good courses on psychology and psychiatry. And as I said, I've studied all this, and so has Katie. And the hypnosis. And we have different ages. I'm old enough to be a mom, and so, you know, all these things are different generations, and you're younger still, so you're going to be helping younger generations, and they're going to be the mummies and daddies of younger generations to come. So your work is going to be more important, say, than my work, because I was just breaking down barriers and doors now to people who didn't want to hear. You know, I mean, so it was hard work. Whereas for you, you've already got a whole wealth of people out there who do want to know. So, you know, joining somewhere where you can get your training, your certification, and we will be teaching online as well. At the moment, we're just doing introductory talks. But, you know, if you want to sign up and follow whatever it is you want to learn, coaching, counseling, you can do it under ministry, you can do it under you know, hypnosis, you can do it under counseling, coaching, metaphysical, to become a metaphysician in our field. But if you went to other people, there's NLP, and there's all sorts of things out there now, tapping. You know, start somewhere that makes you feel happy, because that's the whole point of this show here that we're talking about, is making a choice where you're not conflicted by that choice. You're not giving up something for something else, you know. You perceive yourself as ready. You're not pushing yourself before you're ready. In other words, you're in joy, wanting to do it. So you're excited to go to the class. Whereas if you push yourself in before you're in that joy, it's like, oh, I wonder if I'm going to remember all the words, and I better take 49 books to double check it. It's not going to do you any good. You'll get yourself upset. So you need to go with joy to whatever class you decide to do, and embrace it as you learn it as the tools for you to expand what else you've been doing. And, don't define the ultimate journey. I mean, like I said, I wanted to be a nurse, and I didn't stay in it, and I never had a dream that really was that I would end up being a professor. So, but you're starting, you're on your pathway. And when I was a child, there was no schooling for anything alternative whatsoever, anywhere. Okay. And my basic learning, nursing, also taught me bed baths and massage and had to be aware of bone structure, and make sure when I rolled my patients over that I did things in a certain way so I didn't put bones out. Well, that woke me up to chiropractic work, so if we don't have all these itty bitty things on the side happen, we wouldn't grow. So I'm just feeling to say that to you, because where you're at right now, you're waiting to define it, and I don't want you to define it with logic. I want you to feel it with heart. That makes sense?
Yeah. Yes. A lot of times when I get these epiphanies about it, it's when I'm in my at my peaceful moments, when I'm feeling that high frequency, and also I'll get like this moment of feeling like, you know what, I could really heal from this and work on with helping others, like you said, like young people. Like I was thinking about that's crazy you mentioned that, because I was thinking about aiming for like people 18 to 25, young adults, because when I was that age, I didn't have anybody to release my trauma to or recovery. Like people that are young adults that are dealing with addiction, I didn't have anybody to help counsel me and show me the way, show me that there's a way out of this before you go down to even worse, down to a place where you will regret later in life. And there's only so much you could do for the people that don't want to do it. You can't really push them, but the people that want it, they'll come to me. I know that.
It's more than that, though. It's not just that people want it, will come to you. It's about, I'm here for you. No, okay. They're not here. They're not coming to you for their pleasure. They're coming to you for your pleasure to help them. Do you see what I'm saying?
Okay. Yep.
So you can't go into with stress that I've got to do this for them. You have to, this is my pleasure. I love doing this. I love being with them. I love sharing with them and showing them what they're going to do. Do you want to add anything, Katie?
Yeah, I was going to say that you're exactly right, because you don't want to just attract the like minds or attract the help. You want to attract it because this is something that you are passion fulfilled on. Just like the way that I do my work, just as a comparison here, that I do my work not because I want to help people too, but I do it because I absolutely wholeheartedly dive deep into actually fulfillment of myself. It makes me happy every time I was helping somebody else. It's kind of like the like attracts like, but it's so much more than that. And when you are guided by your own desires, then we'll only have more success and more fulfillment from that.
And coming back to the word free, okay, I've been pushing for Katie all day. Free is when I'm in that situation with those people talking and sharing, my spirit, my soul is free, because I feel that joy of I'm sharing. That's the freedom I'm trying to get people to understand. but it's not
Right.
freedom in terms I'm using,
Uh-huh.
because we use these words so much and we throw them backwards and forwards. Freedom is time. You know,
Right.
I have the time to do this. So I'm creating a space. That's freedom from pressures of
Right.
outside forces. But when you're talking about I feel free, that's your soul. There's a difference.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. And you know, I think I got the whole like don't come, you know, attract people more than pressure, because you know, I hear all the time, oh, you can't just, you know, push people to do things they don't want to do. So I guess I got that from, you know, of course, the you know, from the people around me sometimes. But you know what? I mean, I really like the way you put it. And it's like, it's true. If I have a passion, I'm going to put myself out there and I'm going to do what I can.
And there's a law, like attracts like in the mirror image.
Right.
It's the fourth law of God's. There's only 5 laws. It's not the 10 commandments. It's all man-made through time of Moses and whatever. But the 4 laws, I'm just giving you a very simple form. The first one, number 1, is don't invade the space of another. So if you want to teach and they're not in the mood, all you can say something is like, I'm here for you if you need me. You can't you can take a horse to water, you can't eat and drink. So that's the first law. Don't push your skills on anyone, because they run away. They're not ready.
All right.
The second law is to be responsible for yourself in any given situation, and not blame and shame other people for the reactions to you. They are responsible for their reactions to you, not you. So like if I said to you, and I can't see you, so this is not derogative, but let's say you were sitting in front of me and I said, your nose is too big. That would be in the front, wouldn't it? I would be insulting you. You understand what I'm saying? Well, a lot of teachers are like that. They talk to the kids like, your work isn't good enough. You're not doing this good enough. You know. So what you have to do is flip it over and say, how do you feel about my nose? You know, so taking it back to how do you feel about the work you're doing? How are you doing? Do you need help?
Right.
You know, and leave it be till they reach back. So that's the second law, because you're only responsible for offering, and they're responsible for taking you up on it. Okay.
Right.
And then the third law is don't judge anybody, because we're all different. So we got to accept our opposing differences. I'm giving you a very modern version of it. So if someone likes fish and you like meat, that has nothing to do with helping them sort their issue out. Though they may be saying, I'm arguing over the meal, but it's not the meal. You've got to go behind it and find out what it is there, and if they want to share. And if they don't, you have to just leave them be till they want to share. The fourth law, it comes in when they do want to share. We're accepting they're different in the third law, but we leave them be. In the fourth law, they're coming around and they're saying, I really do accept your offer, so please help me. Then help them according to their perceptions, not yours.
Right.
Ask questions. What do you want to talk about today? You know, that's why therapists do that. And the last one, embrace God, your spirit guides in you, and trust that they'll lead you.
Okay.
I'm just going to add one more thing here, but to the fourth rule that Margaret just said. When seeking out, it's okay to have your perceptions, and when seeking out other advice from communities and so on and so forth, make sure that you discern what your perception is and don't compare yourself to the perceptions of other people. Have clarity first before you go in and take on other information.
Yeah, good
right.
Okay. Well, thank you for calling in.
Oh, you're welcome. It does sound like I do have some training. I might as well do before. So yeah, definitely. If I really want to do it, I'm going to get some training done for it. But
where are you?
ladies have a,
where
Arizona.
Are you? Oh well, you can do training with us, can't you? I'm in Arizona. Where are you in Arizona?
In Phoenix.
Oh, I'm in Lake Havasu.
I have some friends that live out there.
Okay, well, when you get out here sometime, perhaps we'll meet. Take care then.
All right. I thank you too.
Thank you for calling.
Oh, you're welcome. All right, bye.
All right. So that was nice coming in like that, because I hope people listen and understand that, you know, we're the same as him. Without the traumas, we wouldn't be who we are today.
No, and
You know,
a lot of that-
hands-on is the best way to learn anything. Yeah.
exactly, and it only enhances our openness to the perceptions that are around us too. It makes us fully, and I mean fully, aware of the world around us.
And you know, right now, because of the virus and mentioning a dreaded word, you know, but the whole world is upside down. We've got floods, we've got fires, we've got people with insects eating all their produce. I mean, they've got no groundwater. There's just so much going on in terms of this world is changing, whether we like it or not. And you know, there are a quantum amount of people who are always going to be stuck in a rut.
Exactly.
And they're going to complain and moan and groan about change, but change is very important. And making change with choices, like I said on my show, I don't know what you were talking about on yours, but we've got to stop battling ourselves, fighting with ourselves. Mind says one thing and the heart says another, and we can't make up our mind, can't make up our heart.
Essentially, that's what we're really doing, is we are literally having a fight with ourselves. We're not actually fighting the world. We're not actually, you know, we may have you know, our opinions about the world, but we're not really fighting the world, because we can't really actively do anything about it unless we, you know, are stupid enough to get involved in communities. And even then sometimes it's not proactively or positively driven to such an extent where we have good and bad outcomes that result. Does that satisfy us? Obviously, sometimes it won't, and sometimes it will. However, you're still on that level of following the crowd. You're not doing anything for yourself. You're not following your passions. You're not having an autonomous viewpoint to yourself. You're not in that realm of self-mastery, of clarity. You never find direction if you go down that route.
Well, I want to give here a little thing that was in my book, My Journey into the Oneness, that happened to me when Kuan Yin came to me. I was in Japan years ago, and I was sitting in the garden there, which was, you know, the Emperor's Gardens long ago, but now they're public gardens. And I was sitting there, and there's many crows, and they're all croaking away, and there's many beetles and June bee bugs, and you know, so it was really, really noisy. And she says to me, "Can you hear them all?" I went, "Yeah, I can't miss them all." And she said, "No, listen, really listen." So I'm like, what am I supposed to be listening to? So I'm really trying to listen. And then I started to go into what she was wanting me to see, which is like, there's a June bug over here saying, "I'm over here, I'm pretty, I need a mate." And there's like a bird over here, "I'm hungry. Are there any worms over there?" and it was like she was just putting into my head in these sounds of all these different animals as they loomed up in my head, their thoughts of what they were saying. And then at the end she said, "See, they're no different from you. They're lonely, they're miserable, they're upset, they're happy, they're singing songs of joy, they're fulfilled by what their skills and talents are, and some of them are afraid because they think they're going to be eaten." And so, you know, I got the pictures. This years ago, I was probably in the late 90s, that she came and did this with me. And I tell you, every person that came to see me for sessions that month that I was there walked in the door and complained about their status. And I'm sitting there hearing the June bug, the crow, you know, and we are no different. We are no different from everyone else. We're all survivors in different ways.
Yeah, and like I said, you know, each to their own. It's never the greatest to compare yourself with your tragic reality, whatever that may be. And I say that in the most politest way, but yeah, you know, life is a tragedy. We talk about Shakespeare. But yeah, life is a literal tragedy, and what we do, but it's what we do to that tragedy to overcome the adversity that is required to get somewhere, then only then we can really recover.
Yeah, and that's another thing that, you know, when we go into the counseling and all the things that we help people with, there are no two people that want the same counseling. I noticed that in the late 80s and 90s, everybody was using the same method, you know, of how to counsel. Like Ericksonian was earlier, and then it got to ADD or ADH or post-traumatic stress disorder, and everything's adapted. But I notice people are doing the same things, and I just don't come from that space, because when someone comes in, I already know where they're coming from, but I can't tell them. So I actually will say something like, let's say it was, as we used dog earlier on, let's say she came and she had a dog. So I would say, okay, so I know you're worried about your dog, so you tell me about your dog. And then she would say something like, how did you know I have a dog? I'm worrying about it. Well, your spirit guides just told me, but I want to hear it out of your mouth. You know, what's the issue with your dog? See what I mean? Now that gives that person a confidence, because they know you know what they've come about, and B, they're given room to express all their fear about their dog and so on and so forth. Counselors in the 90s and early 200s, actually 2000s, were like, fill out this form. Have you had? And do you smoke? And do you, you know, because this is all what the doctors were doing. So they were trying to sound like they're medical doctors in a way, you know. And of course, there was lots of classes on psychic development and mediumship, and all of this was going on. So people were trying to look professional, like a doctor, but they didn't have training. They all had their own methods. And now today, with the way the world is going, and these kids coming out, they have to have training. Because I saw back in the days, you know, a lot of mediums who had no understanding of protection, and which is what I taught the other day. You remember, I wouldn't let them go till we did the closing down, because nobody was teaching that stuff. And then I would get the mediums and the people coming to me because they got earthbounds around them and they can't get rid of them because they didn't know how to get rid of them. You know, now when I was a child, I had spirit guides in my head telling me what to say and do to them. See, so I was fortunate, I had my own teachers. But for the average person back in the 90s through 200s, there weren't many teachers. There were just people finding out what they could do.
Here's the other thing is that even to this very day, there are a lot of people, you know, tarot readers or people that are actually doing using divination tools to give readings and whatnot. There's a prevalence of them all over the internet. Even counselors alike, you know, there's not one method fits all, but the problem is that there are a lot of people that are trained and not using their training properly, or people who are completely untrained who think that they're doing good, but they're actually doing extreme more harm than what they think they're doing.
I'd like to give you an example of that, because I know you were probably being born around that time, but I need to bring it up because it's very important. There was an interesting birthing for dumping your coding from without, this is before everybody knew about DNA and RNA. Nobody was talking about that, and me and my energy talks that way. But I didn't have those in numbers, DNA and RNA. We didn't have that in those days. We talked about cellular memory. My phrase was cellular neuromuscular memory. It's in all my books as well. So what I'm looking at here is people were like me, developing with their spirit guides and then putting their classes out and teaching, but they weren't channel mediums. So they're teaching these people what to do. And those people who come to the class have come with negativity because they've had issues at home. And that's why they've come. They want to get clear. And so they all go home feeling light and bright and stuff. And then the medium is left with all these negative entities and go to bed that night and get, troubled by spirits bothering them in their sleep state. And then they end up on my doorstep. I can't get rid of these spirits. What should I do? So I'm really pointing out that it's very important if you're going to be teaching something, even in your family unit, if you've got 1 or 2 people learning and the others aren't, the earthbounds can feed off that. So there's a lot to learn when you're studying in being a psychic. It's not that simple, just get a pack of tarot cards and say what comes. You've got to know the psyche of the psychic ability, as it were. So I do warn people, if you're going to have a session, always ask the person for their history, their training. And if they're just beginners, because beginners have to start with just training and doing their cards, make sure you tell them, I'm new and I'm trying this. And on top of that, make sure you know that whoever's teaching you has taught you how to open up, and after you're done, cleanse yourself of negativity and close down. I found back in the mid-90s, a lot of the psychic practitioners were crashing.
Mm-hmm.
I crashed, but it was earlier for me. It was in my, when was it, 77 through 79 when I crashed and died and came back. But the bottom line is, this was a whole 20 years later that I'm picking up people off the floor who just didn't know how to protect themselves and didn't know what freedom was.
And that's the same goes too with professionals too, who think that they're professionals and have absolutely no emphasis or no training on basic psychology. That's the biggest difference between people who want to be what they want to be, but they do nothing about what they want. They just go ahead and do it and not realize the implications that come behind it. That goes professionally with counseling and therapy. And that also goes into energy healing, and it also goes into divination.
Well, now that you're mentioning particular things, we need to make people understand that back for me, when I was your age, there weren't any classes.
Well, no,
everybody was floundering around, but today there are. And so I don't think any young ones have an excuse to not find a teacher who does know what they're doing and can teach them well. But here's the thing. If they say to you, come for a freebie or come for $10, and then you go in and instead of teaching you, they give you like 1 or 2 things and then pitch that you should buy their course and it's $2,000. Don't do it. This is why we're coming through a university level here. We want you to know that if you go to university, you look at your courses, you know what you're going to pay for your courses, and you pay for them ahead of time, and you're going to stick with it. So the one thing I want to say here is that when it comes to free, we do free stuff, and it is free, and there's no gimmicks. Like, you can get a free workbook that Katie will send over to you if you sign up on Easy Peasy Solutions. She'll tell you that in a minute. But the bottom line is there's no gimmick behind that. That book is free, and you can print it out as many times as you want and rewrite it and redo it as you evolve. You can't get it unless you sign up for my class. It is free. And that's what things must be like. So if you're going to learn anything with us, when we do get around to, okay, now this is a beginner's course, it costs this much money, it will be exactly what you're told, it will not be a fortune, and you will get a certificate of completion at the end. If you go on from there and you do more and more, you get diplomas, just like you would in university. That's our goal here. And we've been saying that we're looking for teachers as well. We got a couple of people who are going to come on. So, Katie, what do you want to say about that for you and what you're doing?
Well, what am I doing? What am I not doing? But no, yes, we are looking for teachers for the Smartest Education Center and UCC and Easy Peasy Solutions. Like I said, right from the very beginning, you remember when we first started that first show, I was going into teaching and teachers and education. And, education is not one size fits all. We tailor a lot of our courses that we have, and we actually ask for valid feedback, because we know that we can miss out, and we're human. We miss out on certain information. There's certain things that you want to hear, but we give you that ability to express. Now, that's as a student, and we tell you everything that you need to know, including what is going to happen each week that you study with us, how much is going to be. There's no gimmick behind that one little bit. We're not saying, okay, join my course and this is what you're going to become, because that is not the way life goes. Unfortunately, you have to be wholeheartedly invested in what you want to become. It is not up to us. All we are is the catalyst or the teachers to get you where you need to be. And so that is, and on the flip side about being a teacher, we don't just want talkers. We don't want people that are able to talk about, what divination is, what spirit guides are, what mediumship is, what psychology is, what psychiatry is, so and so and so forth. We don't want you to be able to just talk about it. We want to have that fluid background that you have in academics. You have to prove yourself, because there are so many people out there that want to become teachers in these various different metaphysical subjects, as well as in psychology and psychiatry and counseling, that they really are. And the other thing that I've heard more recently is that I want to become a minister, but they really actually have no idea about what it's like to become a minister. Now, I know that the courses that we have to the first year, and I'm saying the first year, Margaret teaches people how to become a spiritual teacher or a spiritual health practitioner. That is a 1-year diploma. That is, and then if you wanted to continue on to become an ordained minister, someone who is experienced, you have to do the first year in order to get to the second year, which is learning how to become an actual ordained minister. So and it's kind of like similar to seminary school. You need to know these things. And in order to be able to fully grasp every single concept that we can offer. It's not saying that it's a right way or a wrong way of doing things. It's saying that we want to give you the actual education that is required for you to actually do whatever your profession is that you don't want to become properly. Not these people that you see out on social media practicing whatever they're practicing and not really actually knowing the implications of how they do things. And I know that I'm saying it a little harsh here, but the problem is that I'm seeing it a lot. Like Margaret mentioned about having not very many teachers to teach on these subjects from 20, 30 years ago. Today, that problem still is prevalent because we've got one of two things happening here. One, people are just are going into the deep end saying, oh, I just want to become whatever we kind of want to become. And then they go ahead and do it, not realizing the implications, then having no background whatsoever in whatever they're doing. Or if they do have a background, not really using their academics in order to help their profession of whatever they want to become. And three, it's all about the attractiveness. I want to become a tarot reader because it makes me get attention. I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. If you are doing whatever you're doing as a profession to get attention, especially those who try and market themselves like that, you're never going to get the clientele that you want, and you're never going to get the attention that you want. And a lot of the outcomes that you have in terms of protection, you're not going to be able to protect yourself, and you're going to be up. That wall of negativity is still going to be prevalent in the way that you do things. You may be this extravagant person that can take on 20, 30, 50, 80, 100 tarot readings a night, but you're never going to get, if you don't know the consequences of not realizing how to protect yourself, then you're going to be screwed. I'm sorry to say it like that, but
It's not only that, but you know, I see it a lot with tarot cards. They tend to say the same message every time they see the same tarot card, because they really don't understand the entire. Each tarot card is in itself a book. If you know, if you understand it, you really studied it.
The other thing is too, is that when I go down that route of speaking about it, that especially where tarot card readers are concerned, there are a lot of people out there that aren't even, they're fake. They're not psychic mediums. They're not even psychic. They've not actually learned to develop their psychic abilities whatsoever.
I'm not going to be quite as harsh as that. I mean that, you know, there are people out there that have psychic ability, but they're very like, you're going to get a bunch of roses next year. I see you going on a holiday next year. Okay, that's starting, and it's not unusual. We play games like that in the class, but the real serious stuff comes with training, as you said. And so we're looking for students who really want to be serious. I do have a whole tarot cast on the Thoth pack. There's 72 cards in there, so you can imagine how it is about. I'm trying to remember, there was probably about 12 in theory and 12 in practice as well, so a lot of cassettes, and it is my intention to copy that onto audio, and we'll have it up for some people want to buy it and learn from the Thoth pack, but not before I've at least gone through, you know, teaching them how to do psychic ability. You know, tarot good to start with for some people, but they don't teach you the psychic ability. So you've got to learn how to protect yourself and things like that. How are we doing for time? I have no idea. Press your button there.
No, I just had a comment on after that little speech that I just did. Somebody just said, Katie, you need to become a motivational speaker on TED Talks. Yeah. I actually applied. I was going to apply for TED Talks last year. There's actually a specific criteria for TED Talks.
Yeah, I know. We're both talking about doing that, and I've been talking about doing it for 2 or 3 years, because I'm used to standing up on the stage and talking to 1,000 people. We did that all the time in England, but I've done it some here. But it's knowing who you know that leads you to that doorway, and I've never known anyone.
About that is that TED Talks, there are a lot of advertisements out on social media as well about how to do a course on how to become the top motivational speaker in the world, blah, 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 blah. But these courses, I will tell you that they're about $20,000. They're not cheap one little bit, and they don't necessarily guarantee you to become the top person, because that's what they promote. But no, TED Talks is something that Margaret and I have actually looked into. Last year, I actually was going to apply, but I was about 2 days, or no, actually, it was 24 hours outside of the deadline, so I just missed out. But with the way that TED Talks actually works is that you actually have to start out as like a TED Talk baby before you get up to the big league. So they've got different categories and different arenas, and yes, it is quite rewarding under TED Talks, because after you get yourself on TED Talks, you become an international success.
Well, you know, whatever it is about it, you know, for example, I wanted to talk about the energies of the 5 bodies, cellular, neuromuscular memory, DNA, all this stuff, and the crystal work, because we don't need surgeries. 9 times out of 10, even here in town, my chiropractor that I go to all the time, who I teach as well, I just talking about ears, and he's practicing it on some of his clients as well. But sorry, I was just going to say, let me just finish up here. Even with the inoculations and with all the other things going on around here, 5 patients died, side effects. And so we can't trust the medical profession, but we can trust the people who are healers and psychics, because they're going to tell you the truth. That's important to know that. They're not looking at numbers and tests.
I'm not just going to narrow it down to psychic mediums that know the truth. We're talking about well-informed people. Even the most educated people in the world are not totally informed. However, we're talking about people that are well-researched, people like Margaret and I, who do have our noses in books and Google the most basic of information in order to gain the information that we need to gain. I was going to say something, but I can't remember what I was going to say. But anyway, continue on.
Well, I was just saying that from the point of view of study classes, if you don't let us know what you're wanting to study, then we're not formulating it to happen. So we really need feedback. And also anyone that's known me over the years would like to write a testimonial of how, I'm not looking to praise me, I'm talking about how what you've studied has helped you to evolve and do something in the field of metaphysical studies, or anything about Katie that she's helped you with. We're interested in getting a little bit of audio or video up on the site so that people can come there and see what we're offering by those who've had it before. And also let us know what you want to study. I don't know if anyone wants to do crystal acupuncture, but I'm ready to teach it if somebody asks me.
Oh, I remember what I was going to say now, because you just reminded me. Yes, so I lost my train of thought earlier, but I have now gotten to a point where I'm, deeply involved in terms of teaching, education, my own studies and whatnot. And I've now gotten to a point where every person that I have met so far cannot help but to ask me a question. They ask the most basic, what do you do? The basic small talk questions. What do you do? Where are you from? How old are you? Or something along the lines of that. It's generally never about the weather. But I have noticed that every person I have met in the street, I can't have a normal conversation anymore. It ends up being me as the teacher, and I'm sitting there talking to this person that I've just met, and they're like, huh. And they sit there with this face that's full of awe. They're like, where is all this coming from? I'm like, I can't help it. I don't know how to have a normal conversation anymore without teaching. So
since you've done the things with me and you've opened up, and you've got all your diplomas, and she's got a wall full of diplomas. I've made her work hard. But she's got also stuff she did in Australia, so she's well educated. So the bottom line is that we all need to understand that once we open that door, it might be only a little tiny bit open, but it will keep opening until you walk through it.
I can't have normal conversations anymore. I don't know how to. I'm kind of freaked out about it, but what satisfies me is that people, when they do speak to me on a one-on-one level, especially when they first meet me, is that they walk away satisfied with learning something new. And that's all I've ever appreciated, is the fact that I have the ability to help somebody in such a way that they are actually open to learning something new, that put them into that comfort zone so that they're able to express back. It's not just about me giving information out. It's about being able to get for the other person to be comfortable enough to actually feel their way through the conversation and be able to return back with, okay, yeah, I kind of, especially, I might be speaking on, terms of, if we have a conversation about politics, how to come down to a level where you can be mutual about everything that you talk about. And it's completely, it's not, everything doesn't have to be a fight about what you perceive life to be, or what your ideologies are with a, you know, a certain subject.
Well, you got to realize too that some people might not want to study with us. They might just want to have a session. So we've got a special here of $125 an hour at the moment. My fee is usually much more. I don't know what yours is, but we just agreed to start with that. You know, whether you make an appointment with us on Zoom or you just want to trust me, for example, as my mediumship, and I don't need you with me. I can just sit down and do the whole reading when I have all your questions. I've been doing this for years. So that's my journey. If you want help from me, I don't know what you want to say, how you want to help them. Do you want them online, or you can do it with them absent?
I normally do it face-to-face online. Majority of my therapy sessions especially are actually done through Zoom. You can be remotely or you can be in person. I've done in-person, taken on in-person clients before. I've done remote hypnosis before as well. I specialize in, what do I specialize in? Regression therapy for those who really need it, but not the regression therapy that other communities are talking about. These are completely and strictly for therapy purposes only. And as I don't go into past lives or anything like that. It is strictly for therapy. I will say that I charge $150 to $175 an hour. However, I am not going to turn everybody away just because of what I charge. So I do go above and beyond what I charge. So if you do happen to come and see me, you can make a negotiation with me. Whether or not I accept is totally, but I will be mutual about it, and we can because I'm not going to, you know, I know that there's a lot of people out there that do actually need help, and so I'm not going to turn you away.
Now, we're both ministers, so ministers function with zilch income. So we do say that on the other side of the fence, if you're able to donate to the church, then it goes into the church. If you're having a session with us relative to mind, body, spirit, or on some level, because, you know, it's just too much to mention here, we do it. So what do? You go to easypeasysolutions.org, leave us a message there and say that you want to have a session with either of us, or that you want to study a certain topic. And even if the topic's not mentioned right now, we need you to mention it. Someone's got to start the ball rolling. You know, if you ask you to, you know, don't formalize it and ask you don't get. So feedback, please, what you would like to study. And if you have no idea, just go to, for example, my SoundCloud, was it Ask Dr. Margaret? I'm saying this not to get you to have to list all my shows, but if you go through about 130 of the half-hour shows, you'll see topics. And then it might give you an idea as to what it is you want to do with getting help or study or whatever it is. But there's a lot of free stuff between us all. So take that opportunity and go get it. Okay.
And for those who do want to make inquiries, you can go to Samaris UCC. It's Samaris, SUMARIS UCC@gmail.com. Email. That's a direct. I'm hearing monsters growl in my house right now, but anyway, my son has had an afternoon nap. He's just woken up. But anyway, but yeah, if you email samarisUCC@gmail.com, email us with your inquiry. Let us know what you want, whether you want therapy, whether you want us to teach you, and what you want to be taught, what kind of therapy you want, whether you want a reading or whether you want an actual therapy of whatever type, or if you actually have a completely different question, email us directly. That way it gives you the option. You can either go to the website, or you can and see what we're doing over there, or you can just go to email directly. Either or is perfectly fine. Our phone numbers are actually up on the website, so if you need to contact us, you can. However, just don't come to us with a legitimate phone call, please, if you're going to do it that way. because we're not going to be, we're not going to be teaching, and we're not going to waste our time with people that are not adamant on learning or adamant on the therapy that they need. And so I want to make that very, very clear, is that we're not going to be messing around, because we're not people to be messing around.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of spam and spammers and whatever you call them. People just think that it's fun to just play some loud noise, like we had an interruption here today. Please stay away, because it's not conducive to our journey. And I will say, under this energy of like attracts like in the mirror image, that if you do step into our world, your world will change, whether you like it or not. Even if you were that one person who just sent that little horrible noise, you got a feedback from us that's going to affect you somehow subtly while you're sleeping, and you won't even know it. Because that's the oneness. We're all part of the oneness, and the oneness never leaves anyone out. So the fact that you connected means you're ready for some change.
Exactly. I also just want to mention out in finalizing, you please, for those who are listening to Soma Fusion Media, you can go over to somafusionmedia.com, see all the shows that we have on Soma Fusion Media. There is much to learn, and all of it is free for you to learn. You can go over to the Soma Fusion Mind, Body and Soul YouTube channel, like, share, and subscribe out to the shows that we do have. We're pretty much almost live every single, 6 nights a week. We are live. So please look at the shows, interact with us, ask questions. That's what we're all here for. Go over to the YouTube channel, like, share, and subscribe. Again, go over to the websites and go to soundcloud.com/Dr. Margaret Speaks. That's where you're going to find all of Margaret's archive. On my YouTube channel, Soma Fusion, Mind, Body, and Soul, you're going to find my archive to all of my shows. Just look at the playlist. It says guest appearance, Soma Fusion Radio guest appearances. So we're going to find over 50 of my archives to an extensive amount. Also, go over to the samaracenter.com for all of Margaret's PR stuff. Go to easypeasysolutions.org, samaraseducationcenter.com, universalchristchurch.com, and askdrmargaret.com. There's there's also a lot of fun things you can find out on askdrmargaret.com. And also,
Are you exhausted yet?
go to other websites, and that is Samaras. I'm getting confused now. Soma-fusion.com, and you're going to find all of my stuff and everything that I do. I am currently building 5 websites right now simultaneously, so forgive me if I'm tongue-tied right now.
Yeah, Shadow said, geez, we're scared. It was going insane with too much to do. You know what I did want to say, though, as we're pitching everything, is the 22nd of August is our second free class on psychic ability, where we're going to talk about the difference between angels, spirit guides, the oneness, and earthbounds. Because you got to know about all these different types of entities that contact you if you're going to develop your psychic ability. So that's 2 o'clock Pacific time, and 5 o'clock. No, is that right? Yeah, 5 o'clock. 2, 3, 4, 5.
I was just going to say too, and those promos are going to be up as soon, well, by the time the weekend's out anyway. I will say that one top subject that we didn't really touch on today is in terms of destiny. I think next week we can go into destiny and synchronicities.
Yeah, if you wanted to do that, because I got here also, we had the sensations, the battle of confusion versus the lower and higher self, the divine consciousness versus the divine love, is, you know, will and conscious. We didn't go there today, but that's okay. But there's so much to learn about the states of being, and you know, we tend to just get as much as we can and bounce off one another. So whatever you're going to do next week, what are you choosing?
Destiny and synchronicity.
Destiny. See, I have to start thinking, now what's synchronicity? Well, I know what it is, but I mean, we didn't use all these words when I was a girl, so I have to translate that back into the way I think.
How about we're getting, so next week, guys, if you're listening right now, we're going to be talking about synchrodestiny.
Synchronicity. Okay. In other words, you got to fit in.
What but yeah, we're going to talk about synchrodestiny and what it's all about. We can get into angel numbers and all sorts of stuff, and what, you know, what's the word, cause and effect, go into karma, go into all sorts of stuff, magic, how we magically think in terms of the destiny that we create, and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, I'm excited.
Okay, now I understand what you're talking about. You want to talk about. No answer to do it. As I said earlier, you know, all these short initials and words that you learn in university or college or wherever, you know, we didn't have all that. There was nowhere to go. So I had to listen to Spirit, create my own words. So you know how it is. You do what you do. So you got your words, I got mine. Sometimes I have to bow to you and say, what do you mean? But that's okay, because I need to learn too. All right.
There you go.
So I think we're ready to wind up, yeah?
We are. And with that said, we'll see you guys next week, next Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or 4 p.m. Mountain. No, not Mountain Time. What do I say? I'm in the wrong time. You're in Mountain Time, Arizona. So there you go.
Yeah.
We will see you next week, and please be sure to watch our social media to see any upcoming events that are coming up. Like we said, we're going to be doing our next free class on the 22nd, and that'll be at 2:00 in the afternoon Eastern Standard. No, that will be Arizona time. And so yeah, just watch the promos, and next week we're going to be doing synchronicity. So look us up. If you need to make an inquiry again, samarisucc@gmail.com. Until then, we'll see you next week.
Thank you for joining us today. Take care.